In 2023, the playwright Alan Ayckbourn's acclaimed and award-winning trilogy, The Norman Conquests, celebrates its 50th anniversary. To mark the occasion, this is a small tribute to the trilogy and its success. I'm Alan Ayckbourn's archivist, Simon Murgatroyd, and this is a history of the Norman Conquests. Alan Ayckbourn says the trilogy was never intentionally planned. When asked what he was going to write next by a reporter following the success of Absurd Person Singular in 1972, Alan flippantly responded he was possibly considering a trilogy. The story was published the next year, much to the alarm of the Scarborough Theatre Trust board, who knew nothing of this. But Alan said he quite liked the idea and set about writing a trilogy of interlinked plays taking place over a weekend at a country house. The trilogy was written over a 10-day period during May 1973, with the playwright writing crosswise, scene 1 of each play, then scene 2 of each play, and so on. Whilst playwrights had obviously written trilogies before, no one had tackled one in this way, using 3 plays to explore one event from 3 perspectives. It demonstrates Alan's persistent desire to challenge and explore the possibilities of playwriting structure. The Norman Conquests premiered in 1973 at Theatre in the Round at the Library Theatre in Scarborough. It wasn't called the Norman Conquests at this point. That would only come in 1974 with its West End premiere. It was referred to as the trilogy by the playwright and his company during the first production and advertised as 3 linked plays which could be seen in any order and in any quantity, 1, 2 or 3 plays. 2 of the plays also had different titles and premiered as Fancy Meeting You, later retitled Table Manners, Make Yourself at Home, later retitled Living Together, and Round the Garden. If you've ever wondered why Norman only makes his first appearance during the second scene in Table Manners, it's because the actor playing him had previous commitments and had to join rehearsals a week late. The plays premiered in Scarborough in that order on 18th and 25th of June and 2nd of July. It's worth noting that during the original run they were never all performed on the same day, as later would become common. The first time all 3 plays were performed in one day was a year later on 29th of June 1974 at the Greenwich Theatre in London. The original Scarborough production was directed by Alan Ayckbourn in the round, with costumes by Christine Welsh and designs by David Price, who was also the stage manager. The production starred Christopher Godwin as Norman, Rosalind Adams as Annie, Janet Dale as Ruth, Ronald Herdman as Tom, Alex Marshall as Sarah, and Stanley Page as Reg. The trilogy ran from 18th of June to 15th of September 1973 and was a huge success for the company. It not only received excellent reviews, but was reported to have drawn record crowds at Theatre in the Round at the Library Theatre. We take the success of the trilogy for granted today, but there was no guarantee it would be produced again. During much of 1973, it seemed no one was interested in staging all 3 plays as a trilogy because it was deemed too much of a financial risk for the West End. Fortunately, thanks to the persistence of the director Eric Thompson and Alan, alongside the support of Greenwich Theatre's artistic director Ewan Hooper and the producer Michael Codron, the trilogy was produced in 1974 at the Greenwich Theatre before transferring to the Globe in the West End, where it achieved phenomenal success. Alan wasn't so convinced on the opening night at Greenwich and left the theatre in the interval, convinced it was a failure. Despondently walking to a local park, which he discovered was closed, he returned to a theatre, searching for the playwright to tell him he had a hit. The Greenwich production starred Tom Courtenay as Norman, Felicity Kendall as Annie, Michael Gambon as Tom, Penelope Keith as Sarah, Mark Kingston as Reg, and Penelope Wilton as Ruth. Penelope was replaced by Bridget Turner for the West End transfer due to a prior commitment. The trilogy marked the first time Alan Ayckbourn won the Evening Standard Award for Best Play. It also won the Play and Players Awards for Best Comedy. It ran for 20 months in the West End, including a transfer of theatre and a recast. In 1975, it opened on Broadway after an initial run in Los Angeles, where it ran for 6 months at the Morosco's Theatre. In 1977, it found the widest audience of any Ayckbourn play when it was adapted for television by Thames TV in the UK. It marked the first time a living playwright had been given 6 hours of primetime television. Each episode was watched by 10 million people in the UK and at least equivalent in North America. It starred Tom Conti as Norman, Penelope Wilton as Annie, Richard Braz as Reg, Penelope Keith as Sarah, David Troughton as Tom, and Fiona Walker as Ruth. The play has also been adapted for the radio twice by the BBC in 1990 and 2015 and as an audio work by LA Theatre Works in 1999. The TV and audio versions have been released on video, DVD, audio cassette, CD and for streaming over the decades. Made available to professional and amateur companies to produce since 1976, the trilogy is one of the most performed and recognised of Alan Ayckbourn's works and is still regularly revived. In 2008, it was notably revived by the Old Vic in an acclaimed and award-winning production, In the Round, directed by Matthew Warchus. This production transferred to the Circle in the Square in New York, winning a Tony Award for Best Revival. In 1999, the National Theatre named it as one of its 100 plays of the 20th century. It is regularly cited as one of the most significant works by a British playwright from the last century. The Norman Conquests was an extraordinary achievement in 1973. 50 years on, it still stands as one of the great works of modern theatre and is, undeniably, a classic in the Ayckbourn play canon.